Today, I am in conversation once again with Brandon Drumm on the Young and Drumm podcast, where we talk about the updates with the defensive coordinator search. We preview, of course, the 2018 Orange Bowl, and I go ape about the term Homer. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today, I'm going to talk with Brandon Drumm at some length about all the things going on with Oklahoma football, including the defensive coordinator search, Kyler Murray, Austin Kendall transferring, what to make of all the noise around this game. And I had so much fun with it. Let's listen.
And here are your hosts, RJ Young and Brandon Drumm.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I'm here with Brandon Drumm. This is episode 2 of Young and Drumm, an OUinsider.com podcast where we cover all things OU athletics and Sooners oriented. And this week is Orange Bowl week. And today we are going to talk about what we've learned, what Brandon has learned at Orange Bowl Media Day. We're also going to preview the game itself, as well as some goings on and rumblings around the team, particularly Austin Kendall, Pete Golding, all things folks want to talk about and know about. And we'll get a health update on the quarterback, Kyler Murray, and Hollywood Brown. Brandon, how you doing, man?
I'm good. The trip down here was stressful. It was awful as far as the weather. But we're here. We made it just in time for Media Day today. So we got to do that. Then we got to go watch them stretch for practice, which was just awesome. The media availability for that was amazing. I cannot tell you how awesome that was to watch and see who could touch their toes and who couldn't touch their toes, and see who could jog back and forth during warm-ups. It was riveting content that we're going to have on OUinsider.com. So, no, for real, we got to see a little bit more than that. But that's, for the most part, that's what they showed us. And that's what they tend to do. And then they really, really push you out the door really fast. So it's kind of crazy. When they're ready for you to leave, you leave. And they don't want to hear any ifs, ands, or buts about it. They got work to do. And Oklahoma looks really relaxed. They look focused, but relaxed, like they are the team that has nothing to lose.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of they don't get to play that role very often. Most of the time, they are the overdog.
No, I'm sure it's refreshing. Yeah, I'm sure it's refreshing.
Yeah, they're the
absolutely.
overdog. They're the team for which it's not only that they're supposed to win by a lot. And if a team played them close, folks almost treat it like a loss. So for them to walk into this game and be a 14-point dog, they're like, oh, so this is how this feels. Cool, everybody writing you off. Nobody's talking about you. Nobody really wants to give you the time of day. I mean, we saw that photo tweeted by the AL.com columnist about how Oklahoma brought its kicker to Media Day, but not Kyler Murray, who was out sick. And not really think about Austin Seibert, not Austin Kendall. Austin Seibert's one of the best at what he does, and he does 3 duties at once. And no, this is interesting. So, like, have they talked about that? Have you heard them say, hey, I really like this part of the game?
I mean, from everything that we've been talking about down here is that the whole, for one, the Kyler Murray was sick, and I'm using air quotes when I say sick or under the weather. I for real think he just didn't feel like dealing with the media. Really, who could blame him? To be honest, the guy's been on the media tour for the past month, ever since he won the Heisman, and I'm sure he's sick and tired of it. So doing something like that for him, just getting a reprieve from the media, whether it be just that one time, probably was relaxing for him to just kick back in his hotel room and watch a little sports center, and him watch everybody else get grilled by the media when he's the one at home, instead of them being at home and him being the one being grilled by the media. So I'm sure that worked out well for him, and I'm sure it was planned. That way he could get a little bit more him time before all this starts to happen really fast as the week closes out.
Well, that's one take. May I give mine?
Yeah, go for it.
It's your job, dude. Like, the way that I look at this is Kyler Murray is the dominant story coming into the Orange Bowl. He'll be a dominant story in the Orange Bowl. He will be a dominant story on Sunday after the Orange Bowl because he won the Heisman Trophy, because he has the opportunity to play either professional football or professional baseball, or in some world, both, because he has the potential to be drafted in the first round of two of the three major sports leagues in the world, and he is the most dynamic athlete on earth today. Your job is to show up. I'm not saying that he needed to show up and give everybody a great answer and give soliloquies and give monologues about how he's feeling, how he's been dealing, and what he's going to do with the rest of his professional life. I am saying that he needed to do what he essentially did today, which was show up and roll his eyes at the questions. That's it. Because the photos, because the just you're rolling your eyes and saying, yeah, is enough. We're not asking for you to be over here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. We're asking you to do your job. And your job as the quarterback at the University of Oklahoma after you've just won the Heisman Trophy is to show up for the next month. Not every month after that, just the month where you're about to play in the biggest game of the season against the best team in football. If he was sick, all of this is for naught, right? Throw all of this out. If he was not sick, and it's more to what you're saying about giving him some me time, get your me time after you win a national championship. Suck it up and do your job. That was my take on the whole situation. I understand wanting to give these kids time off. I do. But build that into your schedule, not into the media obligations that they have for themselves.
I completely agree with what you're saying. And if he wants to really see what his future is, he needs to go ahead and watch the preview to Deion Sanders 30 for 30 that's coming out on January 31st. And that to me says everything he needs to know about what could potentially be his future, and what could also be kind of in the cards, even in I'm not saying distant future. I'm talking near future, man. I'm talking like he could be the guy that every kid wants to emulate from here on out. And if he can make this work, and I think he can, I think everybody thinks he can, because he's that like you said, he is the most dynamic athlete walking the face of the earth right now, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah, so like knowing all of this and going forward, he showed up number one because he got pounded by folks like me, who called foul, because we've seen this movie before, and we also knew that he practiced and he took photos of him practicing. Now, that said, another quarterback did not show up today. That'd be Austin Kendall, right? And we've been talking off and on about whether or not he could transfer and what it would look like for Oklahoma if he did. My man Clark Beckham, who I love, is a hardcore Austin Kendall fan. He does not believe that Jalen Hurts is half the quarterback that Austin Kendall could be, and I love him for it. That's his opinion, and it's good. But
stay strong with that opinion, brother. You stay strong.
I love you. I love you, Clark. You're the man. But that said, he didn't show up today. And he was asked by his roommate, Tanner Schaefer, who is third-string quarterback, is he sick? Yeah, he's really sick. But do you think that it was a similar tact with, we don't want to put this kid out in front of the media to answer questions he doesn't want to answer?
Yes, because there are transfer rumors out there, as you've heard, as I've heard, as I'm sure everybody that has a pulse has heard. There's a potential of Austin Kendall transferring because he is graduated already. And if he doesn't win the job, or say Oklahoma does take a Jalen Hurts, which apparently I'm reporting on stuff like that. I get told that all the time, that people are saying I'm reporting stuff like that. But I have not once said that guy is coming to Oklahoma for sure. But I can't say that the sources that I've spoke to said that is an option that Oklahoma is considering. And they have every right to do and should do it. I mean, the guy is a national title contending, national title winning quarterback, so why not? Why not? I mean, that would be crazy not to, right?
No, and that's a very good point, because if you're the coaches, speaking strictly as a coach here, I want that QB room as loaded as possible.
Absolutely.
I always want it as loaded as possible. I want those problems, right? That, like, hey, once I get him on campus, then I'll worry about who gets the ball, right? But let me get him on campus. I mean,
they're going to let. I think they would let Austin battle for it. I mean, do I think he would win? I'm not so sure he'd win right now, because I'm not so sure he's going to beat out Tanner Mordecai. I mean, that's how hot the stuff I hear about Tanner Mordecai is. My goodness. I mean, the guy has a chance to be special. But and then you have the 5-star coming in who obviously needs a redshirt year, but Spencer Rattler is going to be a superstar. If you've ever watched the guy play, it's pretty evident that there's something special about him that other people just don't have. And Rattler seems to have that it factor that a guy like Kyler Murray, and Baker Mayfield have. And I truly believe that. I know you and I talked about it even at the opening finals. So, I mean, there's no given that Austin Kendall is going to be the starter for the next 2 years because of just the depth and talent that there is at the University of Oklahoma at the quarterback position. You bring in another person. What is one more person to battle with? If you're the guy, you're going to be the guy one way or the other. Well, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, and I think that coming from the coach's standpoint here, with the redshirt rule and the grad transfer rule acting like free agency, specifically for college football quarterbacks, because they're such a commodity, finding a good one is not easy to do, even as we go through the 24/7 composite and go, well, that guy turned out good. I'll give you an example. Oregon signed Terry Wilson and Justin Herbert in the same year, 2016.
Oh, my God.
Terry Wilson enrolled early in March thinking, as the better of the two prospects, that he was probably going to be the guy, and most people would tell you that he was going to be the guy. And then Justin Herbert, who, by the way, was ranked something like 600th. Matter of fact, let me look this up really quick because we've got that time, and I have people that want to fact check me on a regular basis. So let's get it right. Justin Herbert.
Well, while you're looking that up real quick, I was going to say there's another extenuating circumstance in that, and that's like Helfrey got fired as well, who recruited Wilson and Herbert, obviously, but he recruited Wilson particularly for his type of offense.
Right.
That he ran.
And you're getting into where I'm going with this, which is...
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Justin Herbert was ranked number 43 out of all the quarterbacks in the 24/7 2016 composite. The 659th overall prospect, the 3-star recruit, even at 6'5", 215. Whereas Terry Wilson, right, is rated the 23rd best quarterback in that same recruiting class and ranked 359th, 300 spots ahead of Justin Herbert. And you're thinking,
and that was the Austin Kendall class,
right?
Too.
And Austin Kendall is rated, 12th above Jalen Hurts, who's 13th. So what I'm saying here is, you got two of those guys coming into the class. You think that one's going to be your star. You think that one is going to be that guy, and it ends up not only not being true, but Justin Herbert is being talked about today as the guy who would have gone as the number 1 quarterback in the draft this year, coming back for his senior season at Oregon. All to say, anybody can get fired at any time. A lot of us thought that Mark Helfrich was going to be there for a very long time because he was taking over a system and a program that looked like it was only going to start winning championships on a regular basis. By championship, you can take conference or national, depending on who you want to talk to. But there's nothing to say that Lincoln Riley is going to be Lincoln Riley in 3 years. It's going to be Lincoln Riley in 2 years. I mean, these things change. As much as we love him and as good as he is at his job, that's how coaching in college football goes. So I don't have a problem with doing what, say, Texas did last year, which was sign 2 quarterbacks, right? Yeah. You're going to lose one. You know that. But you'd rather have them in the room than not have them in the room.
For them, they're going to lose both.
Wrong. Yeah, well, I mean, and that's we can get into that. But I'm looking at this going, there's nothing wrong with having Jalen Hurts on your team, no matter who you are. Alabama, Maryland, Oklahoma, Timbuktu University, doesn't really matter. What matters is, can you keep them?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's what I'm saying is, like, the best guy's going to win.
Right.
So if he wants to come out, and I get it. Austin Kendall thinks that there's probably another place like an SMU or something like that, or North Carolina with Mac Brown that he could transfer to, go back home, and be the guy because he's probably better than everybody else on that roster. So that he has options if he wants to be that and transfer. I'm not so sure he does. I think that he thinks that he's better than everybody else. So I wouldn't be shocked for him to stay. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if he transferred. I mean, I know that's fence riding, but it is. That's exactly how this plays out. I think he's going to say he's got to sit down with his family. He's got to do everything, that he's got to cross his T's, dot his I's, make sure that everything is accounted for before he goes out and makes a decision whether he wants to stay, because he does have an option. He has an option to stay or go and not lose eligibility because he's put in the work in the classroom to make that so. So he's able to do what he wants to do. And I'm sure Lincoln Riley would love for them to stay. And I'm sure they would love to take a guy like Jalen Hurts because they need a stopgap, somebody that's going to be there and be the guy at least for a year before Spencer Rattler and Tanner Mordecai really step into play and take over this program for years to come.
Well, we haven't really talked about a worst-case scenario here, and I think you just brought it up, and that's pretty good, is that the worst-case scenario is that you have to start Tanner Mordecai or Spencer Rattler. And who feels absolutely terrible about that? Nobody. Do you not like it? No. You don't love it. You don't love it. You don't want to have to play those guys sooner than you would like to play those guys. You want them to be seasoned vets by the time that they get their first starts. But if it does go the way that you lose Austin Kendall and you don't get Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields, who's still in play, right? We all think that he's probably going to end up at Ohio State or State.
And there's another name that popped up just recently. What was it, like Brandon from Notre Dame?
Brandon Wimbush. Right.
Yeah, another guy that could fit the bill for Lincoln Riley. Now, I know there's rumors like every time it seemed like, and I'm not trying to interrupt you, but like every time it seemed like their transfer pops up, Oklahoma's name's like, oh, wait, he could go to Oklahoma. I'm like, dude, come on.
No, there's something to that though, and I continue to say that, which is as long as Lincoln Riley continues to put Heisman Trophy winners on the podium that play quarterback, his name and his program are going to be synonymous with whoever everybody likes as a transfer quarterback. And because the knock on Kyler Murray was, dude can't throw the ball, man. It was like okay, he could throw it in high school, but he can't throw it in college. We saw him at A&M, and all of a sudden, not to take away from Kyler Murray, but he gets to Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley fixes a few things, and he becomes the best college football player in America. And you're thinking perhaps he can do that with any quarterback that was highly regarded and highly recruited. And you know what? Maybe he can be, but I don't really have a problem with Lincoln Riley being linked to every major transfer quarterback target that comes up. I really don't.
No.
I just think it's a part of being him. Just like the NFL speculation that he's so tired of, it's going to keep coming as long as you're good at your job.
Yeah.
You know, so just deal, man. I get it being petty and getting moany and pissy about it, but at the end of the day, you'd rather have people want you than not, right?
Yeah, no, and Stoops went through that the whole 18 years that he was at Oklahoma, so it's nothing new for Oklahoma fans to have to deal with. Your coach is going to leave. Look, if you believe that just Oklahoma's going to lose their head coach just to anywhere, you're obviously oblivious to what the University of Oklahoma means in the college football world. It is one of the top 2 to 5 jobs in the country, and I say 2 to 5 because any given year it could be put up there in the top 3, 4, 5 range as far as places that you want to go and coach, because the recruiting base is there, the facilities are there, the money's there from the donors. So I mean, it's not like it's a bad situation, and plus it's in the middle of a metropolitan area that is just booming. So it's not like it's a bad spot. It's a spot that is shockingly attractive to high school kids because of everything you can do when you get to the University of Oklahoma, because they don't even realize it until they get there and realize, oh man, you're a stone's throw away from downtown Oklahoma City. I get to go watch NBA anytime I want to do it. Man, like that's shocking to those guys. But one last thing on the whole transfer deal, and as far as the freshman quarterbacks, we're talking about Tanner Mordecai and Spencer Rattler. One reason why you take one of these guys like a Jalen Hurts or Brandon Wimbush or Justin Fields, if you can get any of those guys just eligible automatically outside of Jalen Hurts, which we know will be eligible because he's a grad transfer. If he does he hasn't put his name out there, but if he does decide to put his name in the portal, it's because Oklahoma has potentially 16 to 18 starters coming back next year. And you do not want to squander that with the potential of a really, really young quarterback coming in there and possibly ruining the talent around it. Not ruining it, but not allowing them to be as good as they could potentially be because of inexperience. So you need somebody to come in there that's won some games, or at least has been in the system like an Austin Kendall has for a long time. So it's going to be an interesting spring, to say the least. Or as a matter of fact, the next 2 to 3 weeks are going to be riveting for Oklahoma fans with the transfers and the defensive coordinator. So it's going to be kind of a buckle up, let's see what's going to happen type stuff.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about that, and I continue to tell folks that you'd rather want this kind of news around your program than not. I get that for whatever reason, there is an older segment of the fan base that hates change. And I don't mean to say that they just absolutely hate everything that's going on. I mean to say they want to know what is going to happen. They want it to run like clockwork, and I'm telling everybody, no, that's not how this works. That the people we call kids are teenagers, tweens, adults. They have minds of their own. They have talents of their own. They want to be recognized in the way that they were recognized in high school, which is to be superstars. Same thing with coaches, right? We talk about paying Bill Beatonbow. We don't talk about how many in-home visits has Austin Kendall really had. How many recruiting trips has Lincoln Riley been able to devote to the guy that really is his most experienced quarterback returning, if he can hold on to him. And I think you brought up a very good point about the number of starters that return, especially knowing that you were able to make the college football playoff with a piss-poor defense. Just scrubbish. Not that the players are scrubs. The statistics, the product on the field was scrubbish. 108 total defense, 96 in scoring. It ain't very good. But to that point, I wanted to ask you about the defense. I read like you reported, like you were there for. Pete Golding hasn't been contacted by the University of Oklahoma. What do you make of that? I know what I make of that. I know what my reporting says, and I know what your reporting says, but I want to hear you say it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to call BS. So I'm going to call Coach speak. However you want to word it, go ahead. He is towing the company line, if you will, and he has to do that. Like, why would anybody even ask that question? I mean, I get why they would ask that question, because honestly, you have to. But because I don't even know who asked that question, but I know I saw Eric Bailey report it, and he does a freaking fan. Like, if anybody wants to see a guy that knows how to report, Eric Bailey's the guy from Tulsa.
One of my favorite people, and one of my friends and one of my close friends on the beat when I was on it day to day. I really loved Eric. He was always good to me, and he was always busting his behind.
Yeah, that guy right there knows what he's doing, and he put that out there. I guess he may not have been the only person to do it, because, you know, I'm sure other people were around whenever that happened. He's just happened to be the only person I read, and so props to him for that report, and he has to put that out there because that is what Pete Golding said. Now, I bet you he probably doesn't believe it. So the funny thing is about that whole deal is, literally, as I get in the car, a guy that specifically talks to Golding and knows him very, very well calls me and says, "Yeah, you know better than that, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I understand." And the key word is that he has not spoken or heard from Oklahoma. That doesn't mean the agents haven't talked. People need to realize that. That is how that usually works. It's usually not the school or the university or Lincoln Riley or anybody. It's usually the agents talking, and it's usually coming through a middleman and how they communicate in those type of talks. So he may not have heard directly, and you can say, "Yeah, I haven't heard from them directly." No, you haven't. But I guarantee you something has happened. And I know for a fact something's happened. Does that mean he's going to be the next DC? No. I'm kind of leaning towards maybe not at this point, because it just seems like it'd be so hard to leave Nick Saban, especially with the guys that I know on the Alabama beat that have told me that he's basically been promised the defensive coordinator job at Alabama once Tosh Lapoy leaves. And they think that's going to be within the next 12 to 24 months. So, and not this year, maybe not even next year, but the year after. And that usually means that Golding could be a head coach really soon. But at the same time, that could happen at the University of Oklahoma. You become the defensive coordinator at the University of Oklahoma, and you bring that defense to a top 50 defense with the offense Oklahoma has. You're going to challenge for national title one, and you're going to look like a saint, because they have been awful for 3 straight years. So any sort of improvement, you're going to look like somebody that programs want to keep an eye on and really want to come after, maybe as a head coach, because he's young, fiery. He's very, very innovative in what he does and how he goes about it, and he's learned from some of the best. So, yeah, I think Golding is still somebody to watch going forward. I don't know that he is the leader anymore, but I do know that he is definitely in play and definitely a major, uh, I guess I'm trying to think of the word, contender for the defensive coordinator position going forward.
I think he's the contender for any defensive coordinator position. And kind of my
Yeah, because his name seems to pop up right on every opening.
Well,
so,
my take for this is, you're good at your job. When you're good at your job, folks pay attention everywhere. Even folks that don't reach out to you watch you. They keep tabs on you. They were going to look for an opening if they have an opening to fill. They will say to you, hey, I've been watching you for a very long time, and I want to bring you on my team. What does it take to get you on my team? And when you are at Alabama, you're at the most watched team in America, literally. However, now you get to play with house money. You get to put feelers out through proxy, through your agent, through other coaches. You don't ever have to talk with these universities yourself. You have people who will say, look, he's very happy at Alabama. He's also been promised the defensive coordinator position at Alabama if he's willing to hold out. So you need to make an offer to him that he cannot turn away from. And that's what the position Oklahoma has put itself into. You have to be able to offer this man complete control of the defense. You have to be able to offer him enough money to relocate once again, and you have to offer him a contract length that he believes is going to give an opportunity to turn the defense around. Or, if you're Pete Golding, you want to sit there and be Nick Saban's next best defensive protege, because you have every confidence that if you are a coordinator for Nick Saban, a head coaching job is waiting on you. And perhaps you don't want to give up an opportunity to be a head coach at a name brand program of your choosing. Maryland, Tennessee, Georgia, to name a few from his assistants. Then perhaps you're going to go, hey, why don't we just buy a house? And why don't I just settle down, take it easy, and continue to let my folks say, hey, he's listening to offers, but it's going to take something really great to pry him away.
Right. And speaking of you, I know that you did that on purpose. You brought the house up. And
did I? Did I really?
Yeah, I think probably you did, because we discussed that already.
Trying to set up my boy.
Yeah, a little bit. So there is this rumor that's popped up the last week and a half or so that he has bought a house in Tuscaloosa because he was renting. And it looks like he may be looking to settle down, and he's been trying to still sell his house in San Antonio, and I think a guy in the Alabama market told me that they're starting to hear that the house was finally sold. So I can't confirm that one way or the other, but that is what's out there. And then as far as just the rest of that goes, you nailed it on the head. Just when you're promised that type of stuff, it's hard to turn away. Now, the thing Oklahoma has going for it is the fact that Lincoln Riley, people want to work for him. Like they want to work, they want to learn his offense, they want to learn just defensive guys want to learn, like, how does he attack and why does he do the things that he does with his play calling, and it works. They want to be around a guy that knows how to recruit the way he does. Like, who can recruit and hold a defensive class together the way he did without a defensive coordinator? Seriously. And not just do that, beat other programs out for 4-star guys. Like, not just any 4-star guys, top 100 4-star guys.
No, man, I think you make a good point, because we've seen that with Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer wanted to come to work with Lincoln Riley. We've seen that with the guys that stayed on the staff that want to work with Lincoln Riley. So I always think this is interesting when we're talking about assistant coaches, but a guy that doesn't really get enough due is actually Dennis Simmons and what he's done with this outside wide receiver group. We all know that in the air raid concept, that the inside receivers coach is basically the next guy for offensive coordinator, because he's responsible for so much outside of quarterbacks. But when you look at the production of CeeDee Lamb, the production of Hollywood Brown, you got to be really impressed with what Dennis Simmons has been able to do, especially since establishing himself about the same time that, say, his counterpart, defensive backs coach, Kerry Cook, established himself. But to that point, what do you know about Hollywood Brown? And, I mean, what do you think about the job that Dennis has done?
I mean, I think he's done a fantastic job. I have always been a huge fan of his. It's kind of funny whenever he was coming into Oklahoma, or the rumors were being spread that he was going to be the head coach, or not head coach, but the outside wide receivers coach at Oklahoma. I called him up, got his number, and called him up, and he gave a kind of a giggle and a no comment. And then, of course, 2 days later, he is announced as the new outside receivers coach at the University of Oklahoma, and this was in 2015. So he's been nothing short of a miracle worker for them, especially when it comes outside receivers, because even Oklahoma struggled at that position. Outside of Sterling Shepard, who was an inside and outside guy, they didn't really have anything in 2015 or heading into 2015, and all of a sudden, you got guys like D.D. Westbrook being brought into the program, and he had an okay junior year. And then you had guys like Doug Green show up, who didn't really do much because he was always in trouble. And just several other players that just kind of became contributors underneath Dennis. So he's done a really good job. Then you got CeeDee Lamb, who's turned out to be just a superstar from day one at the University of Oklahoma. And Marquise Brown, everybody thought was too small. He's turned him into one of the biggest targets and best players in all of college football, and that's because he tends to teach the technique that those guys needed, and he finds their weaknesses and makes it their strength. And those guys seem to flourish underneath his coaching. As far as Hollywood goes, I don't know that I buy the limps, man. Like, I know this sounds crazy, but I think it could 100% be just playing possum with Alabama. Just a lot of gamesmanship going on. I came up on the board literally a week after that, and I said, man, the guy Hollywood's going to play. I reported, like I was told, he would have to have his foot amputated off before he wouldn't play that close to home, and they said that they felt like he was going to be really close to being full speed. And then here recently, I was told he's going to be dang near close to 100%, if not 100%. And then you see him out there limping and walking around and talking about 80, 85%. And when we talked to him today, he was like, hey, I'm going to be as close to 100% as I possibly can. He didn't want to put a number on it. He didn't want to do anything, but he feels like he's probably going to play. So I don't know. I don't know about you, but I think it may be a little bit of gamesmanship from Oklahoma, just really trying to mess with Alabama and just kind of keep them kind of lax, thinking maybe he's not going to be there to blow the top off the defensive secondary and kind of stretch the field the way he can. Because if he is up there full speed, he changes everything as far as how they can really match up in the run game with their safeties and scheme, play closer to the line of scrimmage and everything.
Yeah, and I think to that point, it's I've said that the game has gone toward it's gone slowly toward short, fast guys on the outside.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
The game is so much more about spacing than it ever has been, because the rules are different. The rules have made it such that it's tilted toward the offense, and we know this, but the defense will catch up because the defense always catches up, one. And two, I've always said, and I truly believe this, the best athletes on a football team play defense because they're at a disadvantage. You need them to be faster and more athletic than the guys they're playing against whenever possible. That's why Alabama's such a nightmare, is all the dudes they have playing defensive back, playing linebacker, could play running back or wide receiver. All the guys they got playing on defensive line could play offensive line, could play running back, could play fullback, could play tight end. You're seeing better athletes on that side of the ball. So what do you do to try to take advantage of them being over-aggressive with their scheming and recruiting toward bigger, faster, stronger guys? Hey, can you come out here and play defense? You're going to put short, fast Hollywood Brown out there and just say, go run a go route. Or I'm going to try to get you open in space and turn you into one of the best guys after the catch. We saw that with Tyreek Hill. You've seen it with Hollywood Brown. But before that, and this is when I started to pay really close attention to Dennis Simmons, saw it with Dede Westbrook. This is not a guy who was highly touted. This is another junior college guy. Not a guy everybody was excited about. He was short. He was slight. Why should we like this person? Oh, he's fast. Oh, he can catch. Oh, Baker will throw him the ball at any time in any juncture. And as soon as that guy had a Heisman finalist at wide receiver, I was thinking to myself, okay, I've been underrating Dennis Simmons. I've been underrating him because the staff is so good. Cale Gundy consistently competes for National Recruiter of the Year. Lincoln Riley took all the headlines because he's the offensive coordinator. You look at Bill Beatonbow. He was Broyles finalist, right? Broyles Award finalist. And he's put together the best offensive line in the country. He has first-round draft picks. We all know what those guys can do. And then on the outside, it's like, yeah, those guys are good. But who's their coach? It's not Lincoln? It's not Cale? Who is it? Oh, it's Dennis Simmons doing a job out there. And that was the reason for which I just thought I started thinking out loud, like, okay, if this dude says that somebody should play on the outside, like Michael Jones, for instance, maybe that's where he should be. And that's another dude that I'm really excited to see about next year. I know folks are talking about maybe he'll transfer and where's he gone? He's fallen off the face of the earth. He was a guy a lot of folks thought was going to be a regular contributor coming into the season. And it's like, no, he's the heir apparent to what Hollywood is going to do, if not Charleston Rambo, right? So you're really good at that position.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And everybody needs to remember that Dennis Simmons coached Michael Crabtree and was his coach when he won back-to-back Blitnikoffs. So he's had 3 Blitnikoff winners, and that's saying something as a coach. And not just to mention that he's had a Heisman Trophy winner, Heisman Trophy candidate, both of them. And Michael Crabtree and Dede Westbrook were both Heisman contenders and candidates during their senior years in college. So that to me, or last year's in college, what have you. So that to me tells you everything you need to know about his coaching and the things that he's done for the receiving corps at Oklahoma, particularly the outside.
Now, I'm of the opinion that if the defense should stand tall this weekend, if Ruffin McNeil should pull some sort of miracle and hold Alabama to under 21 or have 7 sacks or 4 picks or what have you, that perhaps there is a world in which all of the defensive staff does not get fired as soon as the season ends. What's your take on that? Is there any way that the folks on this staff, any one of them, can save their jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say that, I duck because people are probably throwing shoes at me like I'm George Bush.
Brandon Drumm just reported that they're going to retain the whole defensive staff. He just said it. I heard him.
Yeah. That's exactly what I just said. No, I can see that happening. In your scenario that you just painted, how could you not?
Right.
That would be back-to-back games where the defense really, really made huge strides in how they played. And Lincoln has talked about how it really isn't fair to really talk about how they played after the firing of Mike, because he felt like that set them back. And they're just now getting to midseason form, in his opinion. So he's hoping, and I think praying that this is the case, where he gets to keep all these guys. And because as a head coach, do you really want to fire your friends? I mean, honestly, if you get along that well with the staff, do you want to fire them? No, you don't. I mean, that's a rhetorical question, right? So I think I can see that happening in your scenario. They do the things that you're saying they do, and they come out and they hold Alabama to, say, 30 points. Or 27 or something like that, which I don't know that that's possible. But if they do, man, how could you not possibly throw Ruffin McNeil's name out there as the new DC, or the staff kind of coming together and becoming what everybody hoped they would be earlier in the season. Just so happens to happen late after the change and making Ruffin interim, and after a couple bumps in the road. So you would have to have him at least in that line of discussion. I don't know that you could keep him, or I don't know that he would want that position, to be honest with you. I don't know that Ruffin would really want it, but I think he would want to do everything in his power to make sure that those guys keep their jobs.
Right, and I guess that's the person for which I would bet on being retained, if anybody is retained, would be Ruffin McNeil. would still be an assistant coach in some capacity. Maybe he coaches.
Yeah, you don't fire your mentor.
Right.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what he would coach is open to interpretation because the man has such experience on that side of the ball and such experience as a head coach and just being the person for which Lincoln can sound off of, and that person is invaluable to you no matter what your occupation is. But however, I was thinking about perhaps outside of that guy, who do you think would survive? And I guess it would depend on how some of these players acquit themselves during the Orange Bowl. But
well, if you were actually, and I know this is going to be, I'm going to get just jumped for this comment, and I don't really care. Like, what position this year, in your opinion, has played the best?
Played the best? Be linebackers.
Okay.
Be linebackers.
Then so Kish would probably be the person that you would likely retain out of this scenario, or Thibodeau. And here's the deal. And here's my other thing is, why would you not keep Cooks? Because in this new, if you want to keep your staff online, and you do not want to fire these guys, and you bring in a defensive coordinator that says, hey, I'm going to keep these guys, I will work with these guys for a year and kind of trial by error and see how it works out for him, knowing that his job is safe no matter what, and that he can bring in his guys if this fails. We've seen Kerry Cooks be really successful at Notre Dame under a different scheme, right? Really successful. So why would you not think that wouldn't be possible if somebody else came in and coached the scheme differently? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many ways to look at this, and if you take like your I hate everybody on the defensive side of the ball, blinders and glasses off, there's a chance for all these guys to keep their job one way or the other. Do I think it happens? Nope, I don't. But to say that they all have to go regardless of everything, I think that's kind of naive. You know what I mean? Like, you got to give them a chance. They've all coached only under one scheme, and that's Mike Stoops' scheme. How do we know they wouldn't be better under a different scheme? A scheme that's more flexible in how you coach and you teach, more aggressive, and allow them to do things that they want to do instead of pigeonholing themselves into only what Stoops and his scheme allows them to do. You know what I mean? You see where I'm coming from with that?
What you have said makes you sound like a rational watcher of Oklahoma Sooners football and a rational connoisseur of college football. But guess what the norm is?
Not irrational. That's why I'm ducking, because their shoes being.
Well, I'm going to give them a voice right now and say, as a person with a YouTube channel and a person with a Twitter account with actually fewer followers than you, but also more into basically riling people up.
Yeah,
I know that folks are tired of the entire staff. They want to blow it up. And they're saying this without knowing what the relationships are like with players, what the relationships are like with coaches to each other, and what the relationships are like to recruits. Like, going into 2020, that still has some effects, right? You're asking.
Yeah, no, don't kill me, people, because I'm not saying that that's what has to happen or should happen. I'm just throwing a caveat out there, just being a devil's advocate on this and saying, what if? Type deal, because in your scenario, that is a strong what if. With everything that you laid out, how could you? You know what I mean? How could you? And that's what I'm saying.
Well, look here. I'm about to tell you this Brandon Drumm. I don't like him. I don't agree with him. I don't think that he's watched a minute of Oklahoma football.
You're just a moron.
Look here, son. Look here. I saw them boys get 700 yards posted on them in West Virginia game. Okay. What game were you watching, boy? Like, that's where you're going to come from. And I get it. I do.
I do. I get it 100%.
Right.
That's why I say what if. I'm just throwing what ifs out. I'm throwing a scenario of why possibly they should be given the benefit of the doubt because of just the scheme. There's no way. Now they have a chance right now to show a different scheme. They do. They've had a month to prepare and a month to go over things and do things completely different. Well, will they? That's left to be seen. That is totally left to be seen.
To that point, what have you heard, if anything, about the game plan against Alabama?
Nothing. Like, I will say this, that offensively, I think I would it just from seeing what Citadel did to Alabama, you would think that there would be a lot more RPOs and a lot more option thrown out there. Just not so much of Kyler being the runner or doing all that, but just as far as the looks and just the way that I'm trying to word this in a way
No,
that
no, no,
people.
no, no. I've made a video about this that is going to go live on Friday.
Okay,
In which
so
I straight up just say, run the flex bone. Come out in the flex bone or wishbone look because
and that, okay,
Alabama.
yeah. So I'm not saying run the option or just get Kyler killed running the option. I'm saying just with looks, to where they had their eyes are getting looks with their reads.
Well, that's what I
Or
mean, right? Because
yeah,
the
or all
problem that
option
they
that
had
maybe it's
against
a pass or
Citadel
something like
was
that. Yeah.
alignment. It was not in execution. It was you can't execute what you can't align to. But they flat out just didn't know how to line up against the flex bone, so they were out of position, and that's how they got torched in the first half. It's not that they don't know how to play football; it's that they don't see this look, and they apparently saw enough of it or didn't see enough of it during the week of preparation to feel good about it. So I'm
Yeah.
saying, come out in the look, maybe run 2 or 3 plays out of it, but this moment you come out in that look, Tosh LaPoy calls timeout. And if you do that twice in one game, you burn 2 timeouts. So I'm saying don't make it your game plan. I am saying
No.
have it
Yeah.
in your repertoire because they've shown that they don't know what to do with it. And after what I saw Army do to Houston, and then what I saw Navy do to Army, hey, I'm starting to think that there's something to running some flexbone in your scheme in the way that some folks just have made RPOs a part of their scheme.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you on that. I don't know if I would go out. I don't know that I do it your way, but I was just saying. But I think possibly your way is a way to really jack with their heads to start the game for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
But I'm saying like come in that look, but like maybe in a shotgun flexbone look, kind of like a Temple and all that those guys do. But um, make it to where they had their reads and their keys are just so far thrown off to what they were taught during this whole preparation for Oklahoma. And then Oklahoma goes out and throws a ball out of all those formations, and they're all jacked up. And then they run a couple of jet sweeps and jet sweep options, shovel passes, or options where Kyler's not really going to keep it, but he sure is acting like it and pitches it out to Brooks or Hollywood Brown or something like that who's in motion. Like just completely jack with them and the keys that they're normally going to look off when Oklahoma's out there, to where they have to go back and they have to readjust to what they're doing. And then once they readjust to that, hit them with your normal offense, and then they'll be all jacked up in all sorts of ways. And I think Riley's innovative enough that he might do some things like that as well.
Right. Well, and lastly, before we got to shut this down because I know you got to take a nap and you're gonna take Miss Amy out on the town.
Yeah, she's ready to go see the sights and sounds of Miami for
By
sure.
the way, I got to meet her via phone. Sounds like a lovely woman. Sounds like you do not deserve her at all. As a matter of fact.
Oh, don't pump her up too much. Don't pump her up too much. Make me sound like a jerk here.
No,
no, I'm lucky for real. I'm lucky.
Yeah, and you've been open and honest about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is also a big deal, the Orange Bowl, because you get to talk to players that you don't get to talk to once they get to Oklahoma. Now, I know that you talk a lot, like I talk a lot, to kids when they're in high school before they sign their national letters of intent, before they get on campus, yada, yada,
Freaking
yada.
job sniffers.
Right. But now that they've been let out, because they have to be let out, because the Orange Bowl contractually obligates Oklahoma to bring out the true freshmen, which ones have you spoken to, and which ones do you feel good about?
I spoke to Buki today, and I obviously Creed Humphreys isn't a true freshman, but we got to speak to him. Buki was interesting. When I asked him, what was some of the things that, he felt like he was really, really good at coming out of high school.
Right.
And something that he felt like when he got to college, he was like, whoa. He goes, well, it wasn't, so much during the off season that I felt like I need to work with it. He's like, during the season, it kind of woke me up that this is a different game and that you really have to study film a lot. And that's something he's had to adjust to. And like working hard hasn't ever been an issue for him. I think learning the mental aspect of the game, and I think that's for any freshman, that's a struggle. And his just got put on display. and just got put on stage in front of everybody, sadly, because of the hype that surrounded him and the fact that he performed so well during the preseason, and to begin the year, he performed pretty well. So to watch his downfall and just the mental aspect of college football kind of take hold on him, seeing and hearing a kid say that, that was really hard on him was that'll humble you as even an adult, because you don't want to see that. And I know some people, their fandom just can't allow them to see past that, and just how he's performed and caused touchdowns and long passes and just misalignments and stuff like that. But he's going to get better, because he's realizing the mental aspect of the game is something that he really has to work on, and it's something that he said in the past month he's just really, really put a lot of focus in on. And he felt like he's watched so much film that he can actually tell you what Jerry Judy's favorite food is and stuff like that. I thought that was a pretty cool comment. It's just, that's a cool thing to see, the maturity of a kid that has just been kicked and punched and just spit on so bad for some of his performances that, maybe deservedly so a little bit, because of just how, confident and cocky he was coming out of high school. But you have to remember, they're kids. They're kids. He's a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid. And he came straight out of high school at a time when he was supposed to be going to prom. So that adjustment for him has just been really, really hard. It's been something that has taken a lot of work and a lot of, I think, looking in the mirror for himself. And I think he's done that. And I think he's going to be a good player here in the years to come. I really, truly believe that. And as far as Creed Humphreys, I asked him the same question. What has been the biggest struggle for you as a freshman? He said, man, learning to be the guy that everybody looks at when you line up as like the check with me guy. Because at center, I make the calls. And he goes, it's weird seeing the guys that are seniors next to you, and they're looking at me to be the leader, and they tell me that they're going to go as I lead. And if I screw up, the whole line screws up. And what he means by that is he's got to call the blitzes. He's got to call the protection schemes. He's got to call which way to slide the protection, the leverage, the line, and stuff like that. That's his job. So that's a lot for a freshman. You know what I mean? So it's for him to come through and be as good as he is, and then for Lincoln Riley to say, hey, he's the best player we have, not named Kyler Murray or Marquise Brown, that's saying something. And he's saying that because they truly believe he's going to be an all-pro in the NFL because of how smart he is, how fast he came along. And he is. Bedenbaugh said the same thing. Like, he's never been around a guy that's that smart, picked it up that fast, and has taken the role as the leader as a freshman center on the offensive line.
Hey, man, I've been really impressed by both of those guys, despite in one struggles and one's triumph, and I think a lot of that has to do with a redshirt year where you weren't in front of, thousands of people making mistakes, but also being put in precarious situations and positions. Like I've said many times, a lot of that is scheme. Like the West Virginia game for me was a lot of scheming against that player in that position. Not Buki being out of position, not Buki not making a play. It wasn't just him in that game that was getting eat up. It was also Delarian Turner-Yell, and at a point,
that's another guy.
It was Robert Barnes who was getting torched, and he had a great game despite that penalty that probably should have got him ejected. But I want to play something for you real quick and see what your reaction to it is, just hearing it.
Okay.
Have you gone up against any quarterback that slightly resembles Kyler Murray?
No, I don't feel like I have going against a quarterback slightly resembling Kyler Murray, but I feel like Kyler Murray is not where everybody.
What's that?
No, I'm good.
I didn't hear it.
You didn't hear anything?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was an Alabama defensive tackle who was asked what he thinks about Kyler Murray, and he started off pretty good. He started off being, he's a great player, and I haven't seen anybody like. You know what? I'm gonna stop. He was about to rip Kyler and stopped mid-sentence, just straight up stopped, and I think it was Joe Masato who was asking him about Kyler,
no.
and as soon as he knew that he was about to rip him, the player stopped, And then Masato was like, "You want to finish that?" He's like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm straight." Like, you can see him staring at Masato or whoever it is that was the reporter, just kind of like, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna bring this one back before I say something."
Well, at that point, it's too late. Like, Oklahoma's going to use that.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is already made
use
it the Bleacher
that.
Report. This is
Yeah,
there.
it's already too far gone. Masato, I love that guy.
Yeah, I hope it was him. I'm not sure.
That dude's smart. He's a young, smart reporter. I will tell you that.
I'm not sure that it was him, but I think it was him. Just hearing the voice, because I work with Masato at the Daily.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
he's gonna be good.
Oh yeah, I mean, matter of fact, I think I was like assistant sports editor when he came on, and he eventually became the sports editor. But nah, he's good. He's quiet. Quiet assassin. I like him.
He's a very quiet assassin. Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that when he breaks stuff, you're gonna be like, oh man, how do you do that? But that's because he's just back there lurking, man. That dude knows what he's doing. He's gonna be really good at his job, for real.
Okay, parting shots, and I'm not a score prediction guy. I hate score predictions, but I do them because people like them. So, parting shot, what is your prediction? Not your score prediction. What is your prediction for the game? What do you think is going to happen?
Okay, so we talked about this. I talked with Joey and Trevor and Colin today about this, and even my wife got in on the conversation a little bit. I think that it's going to be a 5 to 7 point game, one way or the other, heading into the fourth quarter. And I think it's going to be a nail biter down to the end because I truly believe that Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley will scheme something up to make sure that they stay in this ball game, even if the defense doesn't come to play. But I will say that I got Trey Brown today to talk about that, and he did say that he they all flat out, we don't hear the white noise, all that bull crap from the outside noise. He flat out admitted, he's like, no, man, that's motivation. We hear it. Yeah, we hear it. Like, how can you not? How can you not?
That's Justin.
No, so I 100% believe that Trey Brown and the rest of those guys completely have every intention to really shock the world, and they feel like they can really kind of piggyback on their performance and even be better than they did at Texas. And I'm kind of with them on that. And this isn't a homer pick. Like, I predicted Oklahoma to lose, but I do think that they have a chance to win. And for some odd reason, I feel like every time they're an underdog like this, Oklahoma always comes out. Think about it. Georgia, underdog, almost beat them. They should have beat them. Squib kick. Alabama in 2014, the only games that they've lost the past couple of years when they've been favored versus Clemson both times. So that to me tells you everything you know. Even Auburn, I think Auburn was favored, and they thought they had a chance, and Oklahoma beat the dog crap out of them. So I think the SEC and Oklahoma has the athletes to hang with them because they're so athletically gifted on the offensive side of the ball that it's hard for the SEC to really duplicate that prepping. And then when you get out and you see it, like, holy crap, they're so fast. So I think Oklahoma hangs with them for a long time.
Well, first I need to check myself. I was thinking Justin Broyle, and you kept saying Trey Brown, so I'm gonna.
No, you're good. You're good. I knew what you meant.
Well, folks are listening, and I'll get a tweet, I'm sure. But to your point about staying in the game and about scheming up and also not being a homer pick. First of all, every sports writer ever, every sports broadcaster ever, every sports radio host ever is a fan of the game and a fan of a team. We all started out doing this, having a team. If you grew up as an Oklahoma fan, you grew up as an Oklahoma fan. If you grew up as a Notre Dame fan, you grew up as a Notre Dame fan. And that doesn't go away because you got a job. Now, I know a big part of the job is being as objective as possible because you're not going to tell people things that aren't true, and you're not going to blow sunshine up their butts where there's no sunshine to blow. But that doesn't make you bad at reporting on the team. It doesn't make you biased at reporting on the team. It just means that you're a normal human being. So I got a problem with anybody that sells anybody else a homer that works in media. Because if you're a homer and you do your job, who cares? Bill Simmons is a homer. Skip Bayless is a homer. I can think of many people who value themselves and their objectivity who grew up fans
Stuart Scott
of
was
teams.
a homer. North Carolina.
Right.
Yeah.
And so enough with the. I mean, we're not gonna hear the end of Homer. I get it, but you know what? I wrote the Iliad. If that's what you think, I just come on now, grow up, people. Be wise about what this job is. At newspapers, they call it the toy department for a reason. It's fun. That's what we're all here to do. Is fun. That's why I tell people to back up off the 18-year-old kid who didn't have a stellar season. You know, back up off the 17-year-old kid who's coming in January because he wants to play college football. We cover the sport because it's fun. We cover the sport because it provided for us. That is the job. How we do the job is the results that you see. And if the results that you see are to your liking, we get to keep doing our jobs. If they're not, just like everybody else, we get fired. So I'm sorry, you just kind of you twerk me with it not being a homer pick because everybody's pick is a homer pick.
Yep.
You know,
but
what you think?
I did that with the caveat because I just wanted to, you know how we get blasted all the time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever. So I'll just go ahead and preface it with not trying to be a homer because anytime I say something, it's like, it's just because you're a homer and a fanboy. I'm like, no, but it's because I actually believe it. And I picked Oklahoma to lose a couple times this year, so kind of got to back off on that whole fanboy deal. I kind of tell it like I see it. So
well, I mean, and to that point though, telling it like you see it is the job, right? And you can do that and be a fan of a team. Like I'm the guy that was calling for Mike Stoops' job. All right, that means that I don't know anything that's more anti-homer than calling for the job of your defensive coordinator, right? Because at the end of the day, I would much rather know who your childhood team was growing up. Not because I'll be able to be like, oh, okay, well, I know this guy's slant. I know this guy's bent. It makes you a human being to me. Because the only human beings out here who don't have teams are cyborgs. And I don't want a cyborg covering my team. I want somebody covering any team, covering any sport with passion, with love for the game, who grew up really worshiping the game, just an unhealthy obsession with sports, with college football, with the NBA, whatever, you know. And
speaking of, I mean, dude, Dari Noka, who is a massive,
fan.
Oh my God, diehard, and he talking about somebody that is diehard and a homer towards Oklahoma. He admits it. He's over here covering for the SEC network and interviewing Oklahoma guys. As an OU grad and a diehard OU fan, nobody's going to blast our guy because he's freaking really good at his job. And who cares? Nobody really cares that he's a fan of Oklahoma because he's good at his job. And that's exactly, I think, the issue that we run into sometimes. It's like, you know what? That whole narrative of fanboy and being a fan is just so stupid. You're going to be a fan of the team. It's how you react and in your actions and in the things that you do with your reporting that are more important than if you're a fan of the team that you're covering, because it is impossible not to be a fan of the team you're covering unless you really despise the people that you're covering, and that's pretty few and far between in my opinion.
Yes, and that's also making a great point. You're going to be a fan of the team. You don't even have to be like rah. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not.
No.
What I'm saying is folks that cover the team benefit from the team doing well.
Oh yeah.
Everybody, in sports, the folks covering Alabama benefit from covering Alabama. Rising tide, all boats. Those folks have better jobs. They get paid better. Their work is amplified. The work that they do is given more credence because people want to know about the team that's winning. So, and if you're a fan of your work, you're a fan of the team winning because people care about what you do. That's one of the reasons why you fight to cover Oklahoma and say not UTSA.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it just in the memberships that we've gained in the past 3 months. As long as Oklahoma's winning, yeah, of course we want them to win because that's good for our bottom line. You're dang right, because it's good for us, but we're not going to actively, I mean, you're making a good point. We're not going to actively go out there and say, oh, yeah, this is like, we're not going to act like fools over them losing. Like, it's not the end of the world for us,
right?
But because it's our job at the same time. But we'd be crazy to sit back and go, man, you know what? I don't want them to win. Like, come on,
or to feel for the kids, because that's really my point.
Yes, because you get to know them. That's exactly right.
That's my thing, right? I mean, I shed tears for the kids because I know their hearts are in it, you know, and that's been my I'm a player advocate because I know I'm former NCAA student athlete. You
Yeah.
know, I know how hard this is to do. I know what you sacrifice to get to college and play, whether you're a walk-on or a 5-star. So, I mean, come on now. Use your brains, folks. You know, that's what I'm saying. Have some common sense about if it was your kid and we were covering him. Would you really trust us if we would tell you that we don't care about how your kid does?
Did you see the Curtis Bolton Instagram? I think it was Curtis Bolton. Yeah, it was. When he was like out on the beach or something like that, and they were like, "You need to be working." Like you're some bull crap. Like, an OU fan like attacked him for having fun on that while he's out here in Miami. I about died when I read it, dude. But that's just, I mean, par for the course. So I mean, that people don't get it. It is what it is. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, man. So while we were recording this podcast, some news broke around Pete Golding, which is this, and I posted this to the VIP board at OUinsider.com. While Alabama co-defensive coordinator Pete Golding hasn't been contacted by Oklahoma, there have been conversations about his potentially becoming the next defensive coordinator at OU through back channels. However, I can report it looks like Pete Golding bought a house near the University of Alabama. That's as clear a message as you can get that he's serious about perhaps staying in Tuscaloosa for the long haul. Football Scoop reports, when we first wrote about Riley's defensive coordinator search earlier this month, the focus was centered on two candidates in Alabama's co-defensive coordinator Pete Golding and Ohio State co-defensive coordinator Alex Grinch. Since then, sources have indicated that Golding will not be the hire, turning the focus toward Grinch. Brandon, what do you think?
I wouldn't necessarily rule Golding out completely, but it does look like Grinch is taking the lead, and that's kind of something that we have been talking about on OU Insider, that his name really is popping up quite a bit more than Golding's has in the last probably, I guess, 3 weeks, I would say, because up until that point, it was like all Golding all the time, and normally when that happens, that person doesn't end up getting the job because something somehow, some way goes out and completely just ruins it, and that's the leaks, and that's people like myself report on what people can confirm through those leaks, and you do the same thing, RJ. So I think that kind of did it in for Golding, and Nick Saban got a hold of him, and I've been also told that he's basically, like we've talked about earlier, gonna have the job at some point or another. The one thing I will say about Grinch is that he is from Ohio, and he does supposedly, and this is just from a couple sources I've talked to, say that he has a family member up there that's sick. So, and he is from Ohio, and his wife is too. So, I don't know that it would be as easy as people think to lure him away from Ohio State. I can also add, though, that him and Schiano I don't think get along too well. So as long as Schiano's there, I think the chances go up for Oklahoma to get to lure him away more often than not.
Yeah, and I think that you're right. Nobody's out of the running until they hire a guy. That's how I look at this. But it is interesting that on the same day that Pete Golding says I haven't been contacted by Oklahoma, reports start dropping that he probably won't be the guy, and that it's Alex Grinch, or you're going to have to go back to the drawing board. That's what I take away from this.
Yeah, and I think Grinch wouldn't bring in a whole bunch of new guys right off the bat, so I think that also makes him a better candidate, and because he would be more, and that's something people don't want to hear. They're like, oh my God, he's going to keep some of the same members. No, I don't think he would keep all of them, but I think there would be a select few of the staff members that would stick around in that scenario. So that'll be interesting to really, really watch and see how that plays out. Because we all know that, and especially in our line of business, that if you want to see traffic really go up and people to buy memberships, you start having coaching changes, and you start having a lot of flipping around and that kind of stuff, and people will start buying because they want to be the first to know everything, and they want to know who's doing what and who's eating what and how much salt did they put on their nachos or their chips or whatever, just how much cheese did they put on there, and they want to know every little bit about the candidates that they can, so they can be the guy at the water cooler when it comes time to talk sports at their line of business. So we love that kind of stuff in our line of work.
Yeah, man, more people to talk to, more names to know, and we're always digging for information. So this is where we live and breed.
Yep. So really be sure you're on OUinsider.com because RJ and I will be all over this as best we can. And we've been really, really out in
Dude,
the
we
forefront of this.
we took a half-hour break to run down some Pete Golding news.
Yeah, we really did.
Podcast.
Yeah, we did. Really started digging on crap and really talking to people. I'm texting sources. He's digging through his back channels, and we really kind of figured out everything by then. And we got some stuff that could possibly have turned the tide there a little bit in Alabama's favor. So that's kind of a play on words a little bit, turn the tide. So yeah, it looks like Golding is more than likely going to stick it out. He's going to be a roll tide here for the next couple of years. So I don't know that he sticks around very long, but he sticks around long enough that he turns Oklahoma down, it seems like.
Well, I think we should cut it there because I've probably already eaten into your nap time before you.
No, I don't need a nap, dude. I'm good. I'm about to wake her up, and we're about to go have some fun out in Miami.
Boy, I was there for the Miami Book Fair. I didn't really go out.
Yeah, dude, your book is killing it, though.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Every author wants to sell books, and this one took a lot out of me, and I'm very proud of it. It's gotten a lot of publicity, but when I was there, I could tell you that the airport was nice, and that the Marriott that I stayed in was nice. I hope you guys see the beach because I did not.
That's the plan, is to take her to go see the beach because she has never really done it here in Miami, and that's all she cares about is beaches. So we're good for that, and we have to, because if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. So.
Hey, if that ain't the truth. Well, that's going to do it for us. This has been Young and Drumm. I'm RJ Young. That is Brandon Drumm. We will see you with the post-game analysis following what we all hope will be an outstanding Orange Bowl. That's it for us. Deuces.